Welcome back to the English Pronunciation Workshop at Southern Utah University. In this unit, we'll talk about syllable stress, sometimes also called word stress, and we will discuss decoding skill number 2. When we talked about vowels, we presented this vowel chart, and we talked about how all of these vowels in the center of the mouth are very similar to the short U sound, the sound. And there's two others within that circle, the schwa sound, which also makes an sound, and the sound, which is a schwa with an R sound connected to it. We're going to talk about the schwa sound because it's an important sound as we deal with multisyllabic words. But before we do that, let's talk about these R-controlled vowel sounds. So the sound, which sounds like a schwa sound with an R after it, is represented in writing by three different writings: the ER combination, the IR combination, or the UR combination. All three spellings make the same sound in spoken language, The AR sound and the AR spelling make the R. So we have and R. And then we have the OR spelling that makes the OR sound. So it can be helpful to recognize these sounds. If you're teaching students to recognize these sounds and to mark improved words, you can mark these words as you would with the blend. So first mark it as a vowel and then link together the vowel and the R to show that together they make that R-controlled vowel sound. But let's talk more in depth now about this schwa. So as I said, the schwa is the unstressed vowel sound. Now, in many languages, including English, some syllables in words will be stressed more than others. We give some parts of the word more emphasis. In English, stress is presented through a higher pitch, a slower way to say the word, and a louder volume. When it's unstressed, we say the words quicker, lower, and with a quieter sound. And so schwa symbols sometimes, especially in dictionaries in English, are represented by this upside down backwards E. And not only are some syllables in English unstressed, but some words in English, when they're not an important word in the sentence, they can become unstressed. So these four words at the bottom of our slide here, the, of, was, they all use that unstressed vowel sound, even though they could have used a clearer, different sound. We could have the, but we don't say the usually. We usually say the on an unstressed pronunciation of that word. Let's talk about a word that uses the schwa sound. So this word is a multisyllabic word. If we were to mark this word, we would see that we mark both vowels. It follows decoding skill 1. So 1 will run. There's one consonant between the vowels. And so we move that consonant with the second vowel. Then we'd go back and we would mark the first syllable, and it would normally be long. And the second one also would be long because they both follow phonetic skill 3. And so if we didn't have a schwa, we would say this go. But native speakers of English don't say this word go. They put stress on the second syllable. And so the first syllable moves from where it originally wasn't in the mouth into the center of the mouth, which is the more relaxed, unstressed position for pronouncing vowels in English. And so it sounds more like go. So that first syllable is quieter, quicker, and softer in volume. And so it moves from a to ago. I talked to my friend 2 days ago. Here's another word that also uses that, And this is a pattern we see often in English. If a word begins with the letter A and it's a multisyllabic word, that A is likely to take on the schwa sound. usually because it is not a stressed syllable. The other syllable in the word is more likely to be stressed. So the first one would follow phonetic skill number 3, but it becomes a schwa. It's more The second syllable, okay, with our blend there, remember the blend is going to move with the second syllable because one will run. And even though it's 2 consonants, we count it as a single for the decoding skill number 1. One will run, one blend. And so then the rest of the word follows phonetic skill number 4 with adjacent vowels. So it will be long. So agree is the syllable. If we put the word together with that schwa, it's agree. Instead of agree, it becomes more agree. The agree part is more pronounced. It's louder, it's slower, and higher volume and higher pitch. But the first syllable is quieter, faster, and at a lower pitch. Agree. Let's look at this word here. This word also follows decoding skill 1. There's one consonant between our vowels, so the one will run, the L will move with the second syllable. And the first syllable follows phonetic skill number 3, so it will be pie. The second word would normally follow phonetic skill number 1. There's one guardian, so we would expect it to have a short O sound. And so the word we would expect it to be pilot. Pilot. But because the stress is on the first syllable, the second syllable becomes unstressed and it loses that stress, and the ah becomes more like pilot, pilot. And so it's moving from ah to pilot. So let's talk a little bit about this. When do we know when a word has the stress at the beginning or the end? Well, in some languages, there is a consistent stress pattern for every word, and we always know which syllable will get the stress. Or there are markers in the written language system that teach us where to place the stress if it doesn't follow that regular pattern. Unfortunately, English does not have stress pattern markers in its regular writing system. Dictionaries will indicate stress, often with almost like an apostrophe symbol in a dictionary pronunciation guide, but not in our regular writing system. But there are some patterns we can learn that can help. And so this first one is when we have a 2-syllable word, then if it is a noun or an adjective, it is likely to put the stress on the first syllable. So for example, student. Stu gets the first stress. The second syllable gets the schwa sound, student. Instead of student, we get student. Private. Private is an adjective. Our first syllable, pri, keeps that long I sound. Vate would be the second syllable if it were stressed, but it's not stressed, so it becomes private. Vate becomes vut, private. Now, when we have a 2-syllable word that is instead a verb or a preposition, then the stress switches to the second syllable. And so here's 2 examples. Attend, attend. Okay, now if this word otherwise might be pronounced at-tend, but we don't say at-tend, we say attend, attend. Same with about. We don't say about, but instead we say about. So the second syllable is receiving the stress, and it's getting that ow vowel, which is a diphthong that moves in the mouth, ow. Okay, and the first syllable changes from a long a to the schwa, about. So that's a pattern you can teach your students, that when it's a 2-syllable word, the stress tends to be on the first syllable if it is a noun or an adjective. It tends to be on the second syllable if it is a verb or a preposition. So let's talk more about decoding skill number 2. We actually, one of those words that we just encountered, attend, follows decoding skill number 2, but we haven't talked about it yet. So decoding skill number 2 says that when there are 2 consonants between the vowels, then the consonants will split. One will stay with the first syllable and the second will move with the second syllable. So we have here the word wisdom. We can mark the vowels in the word. Because we see that there's two working vowels, we know this is a multisyllabic word and we need to apply the decoding skills. So we look at the consonants between the vowels. This has an S and a D. Now, S and a D is not a blend. There are many S blends, but SD is not one of them. So this does not function as a unit. So it's two separate consonants, and so we will split them. And we can draw this line, a long line between the word, and it can be a marker to remind us of the two syllables. Then we apply phonetic skills to each syllable. Our first word follows phonetic skill number 1. It has one guardian, so it will be short. Whiz. The second syllable also follows phonetic skill number 1, so it will be ah. Was ah for the short O sound. Wisdom. And wisdom, now again, wisdom is more of a noun, and so that dom might take on a schwa sound, and we might get more of a wisdom. So it depends on how quickly we're saying the word, and most native speakers are going to stress the first syllable because this is a noun. Our next word here, enchant. Let's apply the same pattern. So first we identify any nouns or blends or digraphs in the word. So we have two vowels and we have a digraph. So we want to mark all of those. Now we look at how many consonants between the two working vowels. In this case, there's two. There's the N and then there's the CH digraph. And so we're going to split between the two of them, between the N and the digraph. So then we'll apply the phonetic skills to the first syllable, which follows phonetic skill number 1. It will be a short E. In the second word, we have two guardians following the vowel, so it follows phonetic skill number 2, which again will be short, so it's a short A. Enchant. Enchant. Let's look at this word. Go ahead and identify any vowels, blends, or digraphs. Okay, we have 3 vowels. So we know there's at least 2 working vowels here, so we will need to apply the decoding skills. When we look at the consonants between the first and second vowel, we can see that there are 2. It's not a blend, it's not a digraph, so we will need to split them. So we end up with the first syllable, F-I-F. It follows phonetic skill number 1. The vowel will be short. The second syllable follows phonetic skill number 4, adjacent vowels. So the second E will be silent and the first will be long. The word is 15. So let's talk about number words for a moment, because syllable stress has an impact on our ability to correctly pronounce and correctly recognize some of the words in English, because the main difference between them, especially in American English, has to do with the stress pattern. If a number is a multiple of 10, and we often see it in the written system represented by a TY at the end of the word, then we stress the first syllable. 60, 20, 40. And so what we're hearing here is that first syllable, the 6, gets a lot of stress, but then the second syllable, D, is quieter. 60. Also in American English, that T sound can often sound more like we call it a flap, which is a very quick D sound. 40, not 40, but 40. Not 20, but 20. 20. Now the teen numbers, words that end in T, E, E, N, we tend to put more stress on the second syllable or more of an equal stress on both syllables. And so we get the word 16 and 14. So that second syllable is much stronger than it was in the examples before. So let's just look at and pronounce these two words again. The first word on our screen is 60. 60. The second word is 16. 16. And so if you're ever working with words or trying to help students differentiate between these two words, understanding syllable stress can help us differentiate these words for pronunciation and for listening purposes. So let's review. In this video, we talked about word stress. We talked about the schwa sound. We talked about how nouns and adjectives that are two syllables tend to be stressed on the first syllable, but verbs and prepositions that are two syllables tend to be stressed on the second syllable. We also talked about how multiples of 10 tend to be stressed on the first syllable, but the teen words are stressed on the second syllable. And then we talked about decoding skill number 2, which says that if there are two consonants between the vowels, then we split the consonants in half. The first one goes with the first syllable, the second goes with the second syllable. So now we have all the skills we need, all 5 phonetic skills and both decoding skills, to decode words of almost any length in English by applying first the decoding skills to each syllable and then the phonetic skills to each syllable. This gives us power. It gives us power to know the pronunciation in English, the written system in English. We get better at reading, at listening, and writing. So I hope that this video is giving you confidence to tackle challenging words in English by applying the decoding skills and then the phonetic skills.